Peace to Raz Fresco. Special edition of You Good Fam. Shout out Baker's Club. Special edition of You Good Fam. We got some special house.
Oh boy.
Salute, salute.
Salute is right.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Shout out Baker's Club, Raz Fresco, man. The homie doing this thing. Yo, special edition of You Good Fam. Oh man, this is super exciting. Super exciting, man, to build with my peoples, man. This is a family affair right here, man. This is a family affair right here.
This is good.
True that.
Yo, salute, man. Like, salute to all the things that you've been doing for the city, you know, like music-wise, community-wise. I know that we're going to get into it, man, so I'm excited. Big up to everyone pulling up, man. Wild, man, wild. Yo, this is a special edition of You Good Fam. We usually have our check-ins on Mondays, but yo, man, we got some special guests that are doing amazing things. And, you know, I love to build with the real. So it's very exciting to have this opportunity right now to build the people then. So for those who don't know, man, when we start off, we usually start off with the check-in. We like to know how people are doing. You know what I mean? So if you want to let us know how you're all feeling on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being not so great, 10 being amazing, that would be super fantastic, man. So I don't know, like who would like to set it off for us?
Who's setting it off? Jermyn, you set it off, Jermyn.
I can't complain, man. I'm feeling good today. I wasn't feeling good earlier, but Yonis knows my whole talk about the full moon and how it affects the body. So, you know, it's one of those days today. So I'm feeling good, man. Can't complain.
That's peace. And on a scale from 1 to 10, what would you say you're at?
I'm at a good 6.
All right. Okay. Well, yo, man, let's pass that over, man, to the big homie 40, man. What's going on, brother?
Oh man, Logic, I'm blessed today, my brother. Today's my first day of what feels like a full recovery from COVID. So today I feel like I'm on 10 today. I mean, I'm not really. My realities, I'm probably like a 7 at best, and I need to keep myself in check as I get back on my feet. But you know, I'm not gonna front. I feel great today because it's the first day I felt great in what feels like a month. So
okay, well, we're definitely glad to hear that, man. Wishing you a speedy recovery. Definitely, you know, self-care is a must. Brother. You know, I know you're someone who's always in the mix doing something, man. So make sure that, you know, self-care is a priority.
Yeah, I'm trying my best right now.
That's what's up, man. Yo, brother Yonis, man, what's going on, homie?
No, I'm doing good, man. Scale 1 to 10, I'm 10. I'm always 10.
Oh, you're up, man. You're up.
I'm always 10. I'm always happy. As long as I'm causing trouble, I'm always
Yes. Stirring the pot, man. Those agitators.
Yeah, Yonis holds that 10 for both me and Jermaine. So.
All right.
He balances it out.
I balance it out.
That's peace, man. Well, yo, me, I'm definitely at a 10, man. Today has been a real productive day. I'm in this virtual reality film course, you know, augmented reality and immersive reality, and Young Guru was one of the guest speakers today, man. So he's deep in the game, and it was a vibe, you know. So my brain is just going off right now. So I'm hyped, and then now I'm here with you all, man. So my energy is just I'm charged up, man. I'm charged up, ready to get into it, man. So that's what's up, man. But yo, big up to everyone who's pulling up, man. My name is Logic. I'm the founder of Stolen from Africa. Stolen from Africa is a Black arts education organization here in Toronto. Been doing a lot of stuff in community for quite some time, man. Going back to 2004, nonstop. We focus on cultural and historical awareness of Africa, the African diaspora, and we work primarily with youth, marginalized youth, in schools, in community, and we just try to make something happen, man. Our whole motto is, connect, inspire, activate, and that's what we're here to do, here to build. And I'm just happy to have just as fun here. From the moment I heard about the movement and the things that you guys been doing and the consistency, I'm yo, man, there's some momentum going on here. So we definitely want to get into that. But before we get into, the whole movement, why don't we just get into a bit about yourselves? Jermaine, I know personally for many years. Like we've worked in schools and whatnot, and you have some like connections to community. So maybe let's start with like our connections to community, and then we'll go into like the creation of the Justice Fund, because I feel like people, you know, need to understand that like this isn't something new. You know, like 40, man, he's been connected to the Remix Project for time, you know what I mean? So him doing stuff in community ain't nothing new. So I know we want to get into it, but go ahead, brothers.
Well, I'll start off. I'm Jermyn.
Hold on, Jermyn.
One sec.
What's up?
Yo, tell the doctor forward, man. It's all good.
Hold
I
on.
thought I was a child at some
Dog's like,
point.
yo, plug
It was
me in,
both.
man.
It was a little bit of my stomach and mostly the dog, but
Okay.
a bit of both.
Yo,
I can
plug
start
me in.
while these guys go off.
All right.
I'm good. I'm back. We're back.
Yeah. I start off with grew up in Toronto, grew up in the downtown area, grew up in Regent Park, born and raised in Regent Park, like I say, from 1975 to I was about 25 years old. I lived in the region. Always been a part of Regent, worked in Regent. I was a youth worker for about 8 years at an educational program. That's where I met Logic, over at one of the high schools I was working at, and we did some workshops together and stuff. I've always been a part of the community. I've always been like, my elders were the dudes that used to be, you know, hanging on the block that some of the young guys like myself used to look up to. And, you know, I've always tried to fill that role of wisdom, that lack of, you know, it wasn't real mentorship, but there was mentorship where, you know, it was a different generation back then. So I try to maintain that within my community. But I've done a lot of roles. I've done everything from, you know, working in the community centers, in the games rooms, to being a janitor, to working in a homeless shelter, and being a harm reduction worker for 8 years, and then working within the community in an educational program. So I've done a lot of stuff, and I've seen a lot of stuff. Like I like to tell people, the only thing I'm missing on my resume right now is working with the senior population. So, but I'm a student of the Hard Knocks. I am also educated by experience.
Love that, man. Love that. Bro, I appreciate the work, man. You've been like consistent, you know, like in the scene, man. Like shout out Regent Park, man. I remember seeing some cameos in those throwback Point Blank videos and all that. You know what I'm saying? So shout out, man. Big up.
Thanks,
yeah, man. But yo, I'll just pass it over to brother 40. You know, I know you've been doing like a lot in the music scene, but yo, you have some foundations in community, man. So why don't you let people know about that?
Yeah, I mean, you know, everybody obviously knows me through music and my journey in that space. But, you know, I grew up in the city, downtown, and between Hyde Park and Parkdale and in and around that neighborhood. And so from when I was about 17 or 18, I was working and running a studio in Mazarick Cowan with my brother Dell and For Unity. So like that was my first sort of involvement in like running studios in community and seeing their direct impact and what that meant, and a place to go, and having equipment available and accessible. And, you know, my background, my mentor is Gadget, and he's the guy who taught me how to mix, and is actually a mixer on a lot of Drake's catalog, and a legend in his own right, obviously. And like, from my perspective, in a lot of ways, he's like the grandfather of hip hop in Toronto, you know. But Gadget's thing was like giving gear out, like in the hood specifically. Like he had equipment everywhere, and every once in a while he'd go on a rampage. We're like, oh, where's my NPCs? And call so and so from Point Blank, and call this guy and that guy, and where's Citizen Kane, and I gave him an ASR 20 years ago. They owe me this and that. But like, and so as much as like he'd go off sometimes, it was just funny like how involved with community he was and giving back from a perspective of music. So even like my mentor, that's who he was, and that's sort of where I come from. And my first real chance I ever got in life was working at the Remix Project, and having that job there when, you know, I was sort of down and out and recovering from getting out of the hospital with multiple sclerosis and had nowhere to turn. And it was like, oh my God, I can make money and survive at least while making music. Like, this is insane. And that's the first time I'd ever had that opportunity. And that's really what put me in a position to continue with my music career. But I often refer to the Remix as being like the most fulfilling time in my life, and something I've been chasing after ever since. Even though, you know, me and Drake have obviously been so successful, like those times were so important to me. So, you know, that's sort of my story, being involved in that space. And why it's something that I'm so passionate about now and prioritize now in my daily life. So.
Yeah, no, that's powerful, man. Like, you know, with Stone from Africa, we draw on this like African word called Sankofa. It's from the Akan tribe in Ghana. And what it means is like, you know, it's not taboo to go back and collect what you may have forgotten. So it seems like we have this like full circle, like you're coming back to like your roots, travel the world, you know, ran laps, and now you're coming back to the community, man. So that's beautiful. And that's crazy that you have a connection with For Unity as well, because like I'm not from Parkdale, but I spent a lot of time in Parkdale back in the day, and For Unity was a nice little hub until like the studio got robbed and whatever. But anyways,
no, I was there for a couple of years. Like that was like I always remember like my first ever synthesizer that I like got at Christmas when I was like 12 or 13, which is like how I like learned how to like program MIDI for the first time and like all that type of stuff. Like I left that there at the studio like years and years and years. I always think about it like if it was still up there, and I would pass by Missouri every once in a while. I'm like, what's going on up there, you know? And that's actually how I got to the mobile studios that I'm building now, was from experience I had like stopping by Missouri and having a conversation with them there. So
well, that's beautiful. Well, we'll definitely get into like the mobile studios in a bit, man. I also got to shout out, you know, Gavin Shepard, man. That's my homie right there. You know, a remix project. All the people, shout out Rich Kim, everybody who's doing the remix, you know what I mean, right now, and carrying the torch and whatnot. But yo, Yonis, brother, I see you in the corner there. Yeah, man. Yo, why don't you like
take care of the puppy for a second?
Yeah.
I'm just hanging out.
Share a bit about your connection to like community and, you know, where the roots of your passion.
Yeah, I've been in the not-for-profit sector my whole life, and I know I look young, but that's because black don't crack. Most of it has been in, you know, working with frontline organizations. My background is in international development, so I used to work overseas in refugee camps and whatnot. But here in Toronto, I'm from Weston, which is the second poorest neighborhood in the city of Toronto. When we talk about violence or lack of affordable housing or lack of, you know, food insecurity, a lot of that can be found in Weston Road, right? And I'm at this weird intersection of politics, government relations, philanthropy and charity, frontline organizations. So like, you know, all the boards I sit on, all the community organizations that we support, a lot of that is rooted in my love for Weston Road, right? My love for my community, particularly Somali mothers in Weston Road who raised us, who built us, who supported us. So everything I do is rooted in Weston Road.
I love that, man. I love that. Like everyone has like a foundation in community, and I feel like this type of work like requires that type of like passion. Like nobody gets into this work thinking that like, hey man, we want to get rich off this or whatever. It's because we feel something in our soul and we want to contribute to something greater. You know what I mean? So I just always love to kind of like set the stage like that so people can really understand that like, yo, this is deep. Like it's a lifestyle. You know what I mean? So that being said, I mean, this, you know, like the three of you came together to found, you know, create the Justice Fund. Like, why don't you talk about like how that even came about? Like, how did y'all connect, and what was like, I guess, like the inspiration behind the Justice Fund? That's a good one.
I love this game.
Everybody just looks at it.
It's long.
Oh, it's my favorite.
I want to give credit to Jermaine. So obviously, Jermaine is the intersection of both me and Noah, how this organization came together. It was all rooted in Jermaine. From me harassing Jermaine outside of Daniel's Spectrum to talk about all the work that we need to do for our city, being connected to Noah, and then having a conversation with Noah and Jermaine, being pushed by Jermaine to set up something that we can ensure that addresses the immediate needs of youth, particularly youth in conflict with the law in the city of Toronto, but also has a vision to ensure that, you know, on the long term, we're building in an organization that is not going to fall into the same pitfalls that other charitable organizations are doing, right? Our work is rooted in settler philanthropy, right? Our work is rooted in exploitation and extraction of Black and Indigenous communities. So establishing Justice Fund is to ensure that, you know, we don't copy those same mistakes. We do something new. We write a new path forward. And it really is straight up. It's using Jermaine's frontline work, my connections within the philanthropic space, and Noah's visibility, right? And passion and love for the city, right? Like bringing all three of those things together is allowing us to accomplish this work.
That's incredible, yo. That sounds like a real like Voltron. They all just coming together and just everybody has their position.
That is the Voltron, though, right there. Like you just
It's
explained it perfectly. You know,
yeah.
like,
He explained it so perfect and it's simple. Like we try to break away from everything that's so-called traditional and do our non-traditional way of doing business. And exactly what he said. We're alike in so much ways that we come from community, we feel it, but I think we're now in the position to have a seat at the table and actually have those discussions with the people, right? You're no longer hiring an executive director. Like the CEO for Justice Fund is Yonis. He's not a guy who went to school and got a master's and now is working on his PhD while he's the CEO. He's a guy that understands the business and he's working to make a better city for all our communities, right? And at the end of the day, for me, it's like, these are the things that people always do. We get the right person who has the right resume, but we're lacking heart. So one thing that you're going to see that nobody could talk about the heart of what you see at Justice Fund, right? So that's the one thing. We may lack something. Jermaine lacks a lot of technical skills, but I don't lack heart and for what we do for our community, right? So that's the one thing I think that will always beat anybody and outperform in, is that we're not here for accolades. We're not here for people to say, oh, what a great job Noah and Yonis and Jermaine are doing. We're here to just make change for the communities, and we're trying to do stuff different. We're trying to disrupt everything, and we're trying to lead the tables. Like Yonis always says, our conversations that are happening in our community are not happening with people that it should be happening with, and we're making sure those voices are going to get heard.
Yo, that's man, like you said it right there, and that's like the energy that I caught from all of y'all. You know what I mean? I've been like really watching the movement. I remember when y'all had that demonstration at City Hall, and I pulled up, and like you can tell that the heart's in it. You know what I mean? It's like everything is right, and I'm like an energy guy. You know what I mean? Like, so when the energy's right, I feel the vibe. I'm like, okay, this is something that I can tap into. You know, so that being said, you know, having this passion for like youth and community. You know, I want to discuss a bit about like trauma and grief, especially when it comes to like young people. I'm not sure if y'all are aware though, but like there was like a recent like shooting in Scarborough at David Mary Thompson School. Inside the school, 18-year-old, you know, was killed. Rest in peace, man. God bless his soul and his family. And you know, the other individual was a young person himself too. You know, and there's just so much that is going on. So I guess like, what are your thoughts on just like young people and just, you know, trauma and grief and what's happening in the city right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in here first. Sorry.
All right.
I'm really fucking annoyed. Sorry, my language.
Okay, man.
it's called for.
It's extremely frustrating to see the level of indifference to violence in the city of Toronto, particularly amongst young populations. This shooting that happened in the school the other day, is another symptom of the public health crisis that is happening in the city of Toronto when it comes to violence. And, you know, you look at it from a year ago, we had multiple shootings and stabbings of young people. We had a mother who was almost, I think, 8 months pregnant, who was shot as well, right? The indifference is disgusting. And then you see the energy of everybody over the last 24 to 48 hours screaming up and down that we need to do something, we need to do something. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about violence in the city of Toronto since 2005, since, you know, the Canadian media dubbed it gun of violence and then moved on.
Summer of the gun.
Right? Summer of the gun, yeah. And then they moved on. Mm-hmm. And then what? And then what? Right? So we talk about trauma. Every kid who's under the age of 18 years old in the city of Toronto knows the second it gets warmer in this city, they know what's about to happen.
This actually, this actually leads into like my follow-up question, which goes into like practical ways that the Justice Fund is creating meaningful opportunities. You know, like we've identified some problems, and like we're not like the type of people who just talking about it and doing the photo ops and whatnot. It's like, what can we actually do, to make a difference, to plant that seed, to create opportunities, So once you all, I guess like Yonis or 40, once you dive in and let us know some of the practical ways that the Justice Fund is creating meaningful opportunities for young people.
Yeah, so I mean, like for me, right, my job within the Justice Fund is just to sort of like use my microphone, bring visibility, you know, and lend credibility to any sort of like major corporate connections that I can put on the table for us, whether that's funding or opportunity, or, you know, even something down to our relationship with Tim Hortons and all the work we've done there with the camps. I mean, like, that's like really tangible stuff for us, right? So the care packages, which are like a sort of like a really important thing for us. I mean, those were a pretty big deal, and we, you know, made a little bit of noise about it. But, you know, in a time of COVID, right, like those laptops and having that access to that technology is incredibly valuable. Most people take for granted the ease of access that their children have to that type of technology that isn't actually a staple across this city in education when it needs to be. So, I mean, there's so many gaps that we try and fill in that level. But, you know, speaking for myself personally, right, like I'm just trying to use my microphone, bring attention, get people on board, and so we can do the right things with this incredible team that we have here, right? Like that's my place, not to like invent the wheel, but to make those connections.
Just to add on, because he's being very humble, he does way more than that, including running workshops and teaching the workshops that we do with youth, right? It's one thing if I say something, it's another thing if Jermaine says it, right? But when you hear it from somebody like Noah, who has such visibility and has accomplished so much, it means much more to those communities that we work with. So we did do the camp program where we brought 40 kids from across the city of Toronto to do 12 weeks of camp programming. We handed out 325 care packages, each which is valued at like $1,500. Got a brand new laptops and clothes, action toolkits so they could, you know, support their communities. We've done a few campaigns raising awareness in the city, whether it's the Dear Toronto campaign, which is highlighting, you know, the fact that gun violence has increased over 170% over the last 3 years, or the campaign that we did to encourage the philanthropic community of Canada to release more money into our communities, right? For those that don't know, less than 1% of all charitable giving in Canada goes to Black organizations.
Can you say that again, man? Say that again for people in the back.
Oh, yeah. All right, I'm going to hit you guys with the stats, all right?
Yeah, repeat that again in case it didn't make any sense to you what
What?
you just heard.
The stats don't make sense here. 0.27% of every $100, so 27 cents of each $100 gets donated to Black Indigenous charities. I think it's 0.7% for Black charities for every $100 in Canada. BYU University in Utah, the Mormon Church in Utah, raises more money from Canadian foundations than all Indigenous groups in Canada combined get.
Wow.
Right? Something really is messed up here in the charitable sector. So like releasing like we did more money to encourage Philanthropic Canada. We have 6 pillars. You can go on the Justice Fund website to learn more about it. So we're trying to encourage the Philanthropic Canada to release more funds, encourage government to step up and do their part. Here in Canada, we have a law where, let's say you have a foundation and you have an endowment, and that endowment has, let's say, $10 million, and it increases a little bit per year. You're legally required only to disperse 3.5% of that money.
Wow.
In Canada.
Wow.
So the question is, like, where's the other, number one, why are we not releasing more of that money? 2, where is that other 97.5% invested in, right? And the reality is, it's invested in the stock market. So it's invested in oil, it's invested in extraction, it's invested in the same bullshit that these charities are trying to accomplish. It makes no sense. You can have an environmental foundation. Now I'm getting hyped. You can have an environmental foundation whose mission is to address climate change. Their foundation can invest in the stock market for extraction. How does that make sense? It makes sense. Nothing in the charitable sector makes sense. It's a perpetual cycle of stupidity.
But I mean, like, they're getting tax breaks and then don't even have to actually donate more than 3.5 or whatever percent of that money. So, I mean, you know, on our end, that campaign really is just pushing to say, like, man, just up that number a little bit and you free up, you know, billions in philanthropic money, right? It's like, and the whole system's obviously flawed, as Yonis has obviously pointed out, but, you know, trying to exist in it the best we can, I guess, is sort of the name of the game. So
yeah,
like
All right, go ahead, man.
No, I'm just trying to understand like how they're even getting away with this. Like the word charity, you know, like, I mean, we have an assumption of what that means.
Yeah.
But you all are giving me a whole completely different like operation of what's going on, man.
Well,
Like,
I'm laughing because when I first read the deck and campaign from Yonis, I was at Jermyn. I was like, "Yo, what? Nah, this can't be right." Like, obviously, I'm reading this wrong, or this is a mistake, or whatever the case is. But like, nah, it's just shockingly true. That's it.
wow.
It's just shocking. I don't know what else to really say.
And like my biggest, like, all right, so my biggest beef is, yeah, that money's there. That money's already been committed to, right? And the money we're talking about is over $85 billion. Cash money, $85 billion, right? That $85 billion, it's going to be hard to convince people to make changes, whether it's to like give up that money and spend it on communities to solve the issues our generations face right now. What I'm worried about is, a lot of people made a lot of money over the last 2-3 years. Here in Canada, we're about to see the largest wealth transfer from one generation to another. And what happens when people transfer wealth is the majority of people set up charitable institutions or foundations. So my biggest fear is we're about to see $1 trillion by 2030 get transferred, right? How much of that is going to be reallocated to the charitable sector? And when it gets reallocated, how much of that is actually going to support Black and Indigenous groups, right? There's over $85 billion of charitable assets in this country, and yet we've had intergenerational boil water advisories for Indigenous groups. It makes no fucking sense.
It doesn't make any sense. It's been earmarked already to do this work, right? So like it's like you can't even add it up. Like, 85 billion, but like wait, that's way too much money. There's no way there's that much. It's like I still don't believe any of it to be true. It's crazy.
So like a lot of it just like holding like we in the philanthropic space too, right? Like we are a part of that ecosystem. So it's holding those folks accountable. It's me yelling at all the CEOs of community foundations across this country or private foundations and telling them, yo, step up your game, right? I don't care for your statements of support. I don't care for your black boxes. Who gives a shit about, your letters of support? Who cares about your letters of concern? I don't care for your $5,000 donation. I don't care for your $25,000 donation. We need to see significant investment. Spend that money. Build affordable housing units. Build food insecurity preventions in these neighborhoods. Build transit. Build more spaces for community centers so kids are not shooting each other in schools. Build more libraries. Build more Indigenous spaces. What the hell are we waiting for? The money's there.
Yo, man, and this is what I appreciate about the energy of like the Justice Fund, because like not only do you all like run your programs and essentially putting your money where your mouth is, like you're also advocating and bringing this like knowledge to the forefronts that people just don't even know about. So big up to y'all for that. As we're going to be wrapping up shortly, I kind of want to move to the aspect of like healing through like creative expression. Like I'm curious to know like your perspective, like how have you seen that, like creative expression, however that looks, and in the context of healing, like what are some things that you all have seen?
What's funny, like for me, I've always like, I've never really all the way understood it, like we all understand it on some level. Like, of course it's impactful to express yourself creatively, especially in circumstances of trauma or just getting through life on a day-to-day basis can be helpful. But I've had these experiences with people coming to me telling me that I've changed their life or done this or that, and that's sort of what I mean. But the part I've always had a hard time, like, yeah, okay, like sure, whatever, okay, cool, like I made some records, and like had some crazy impact on you. But I mean, like the reality is, after 15 years of having those conversations with people, is that music can do that, and it can have that experience, and it is for a lot of us that escape and that growth and that eye-opening and whatever the case is. And so creating it also obviously has a similar effect. And so I've subscribed more to that narrative as I've had the personal experiences of that specifically throughout my career and how people have been impacted. And so I've understood that more and more as I've gotten older. And I think just expressing yourself, creative writing is valuable, right? Making music is valuable, singing is valuable, dancing is valuable. All of these things can be the best therapy known to mankind. So it's like I hold immense value in those things, and as I said, I've seen it firsthand. So even if I would be skeptical in the very beginning to like be like, I don't know if I all the way believe you. It's like I'm approaching from a different place now where I see day to day what it does for people. And obviously for myself, I take a much greater perspective, which is, and I just choose music as my tool to attack that greater perspective. But the greater perspective is a lot of kids growing up in this city and not finding value or worth in themselves or their futures. And for me, it's like, yo, maybe you're going to get into a studio or in front of that computer or in front of that drum machine and be like, oh man, I can do this. In fact, this sounds cool. Oh my God, hold on. I'm inspired. Wait, hold on. I have something I need to do tomorrow. Hold on. I've got a priority. I've got somewhere I need to spend my energy that isn't bullshit. Like I'm suddenly motivated, and that's my marker of success. That's what I boil it down to. It's that simple for me. My tool to sort of like show that value and worth just so happens to be the creation of music, whether it's technical aspect, the creative aspect, writing, performing, or it's, as I said, technical, recording and creating. Because for me, it was recording. That was my joy. Like, I just loved putting the pieces together for other people around me. I didn't necessarily want to be on the mic myself, right? So that was my sort of expression. And so that's really my marker of success anyways, is kind of my point, right? I just want to show people that look how valuable this can be and how fun it is and how much of a future there is in so many different ways and so on and so forth. So that's really what I'm doing with music. But I also, obviously, yes, it's an incredible healing experience on many levels, let alone getting into like, you know, the secrets of like special frequencies that make you feel better or whatever the case is, of that type of medicine, if you will, when it comes to music.
No, man, that's extremely powerful, and it's really like validating coming from someone like yourself, you know, who's seen the ultimate heights of like success, and sometimes us, you know, people who are like trying to explain to others, they're like, yeah, well, that's cute, you know, want to get in the studio and whatnot, but no, like there really is like a lot of like healing properties. And then another thing I want to address is like oftentimes when it comes to like recording music, young people feel like they got to be in this like elaborate studio to like record stuff and whatnot. But like I heard that like, you know, like Champagne Poetry was like recorded on an iPhone. Like it was, is that true?
Yeah. So like, okay, so I'm always recording stuff on an iPhone just because it's like easier these days, and the iPhone sounds great. So I mean, like, yeah, if I have to like record like an instrument, I might just like use an iPhone, for instance. But I think like, I don't know, I always tell my Travis Scott story, which is, I remember when I met him at Wireless Fest in London, and we'd never met before, and he comes up to me and he's like, oh man, 40, you don't understand, you changed my life. And I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, you did this blog post where you basically said all you need is like a laptop and this program and this mic and a couple plugins. And I showed my mom, and I was like, yo mom, listen, all I need is this mic and these plugins, and he convinced his mom to get it for him, and he's like, look what happened, look, I'm here, and I was just like, whoa, that's fucking crazy, you know. I'm always joking with my manager about like, did it actually happen? He's like, no, it happened, I was there. I'm like, all right, okay, cool, I'll tell the story. But like, the point is that I've always been preaching that don't let people tell you need all that fancy shit. When we sign artists, I the first conversation I have with them is like, yo, don't get caught up in all this, like, you need all this nonsense. Like, you don't need any of that stuff, you know, like, all you need is whatever you're doing. How'd you get here? How'd you make that song I heard? It sounded great. Let's keep doing that. Like, you know, it's not rocket science in this day and age. You just want to create music. And the Beatles didn't have much to work with back then, you know, and, you know, whoever it is, Marvin Gaye was lying down on a couch with an SM57. So it's like, all right, so grab an SM57 for $100 and lie on the couch in the living room and track a record and make it great, right? Like, there's a way to do it at all times. And I think, you know, people get caught up and lost in all the big fancy stuff. And like, sure, I'm in a big, beautiful recording facility, but like, yeah, welcome to like my luxury, you know, like, I don't drive Ferraris. I have a nice recording facility, you know? So, I mean, but at the end of the day, that's what it is, right? It's not a necessity. It's not the difference maker of whether or not something's going to be good or not, or whatever the case is. All you need is a computer of any kind. I don't care what it is. It can be 15, 20 years old. It'll do the trick. Like, you don't need nothing. And if you only had an iPhone, you could do it. And if I was trapped with only an iPhone, I'd make classics all day. Like, there's ways to do it. There's software, there's plugins, it's all doable. So, I mean, that's the name of the game. Like, figuring out how to work with what you have and being great with what's in front of you. That's the name of the game. Being master of your domain. I don't care what you use to make beats. MPC 3000, Ableton, Fruity Loops, Pro Tools, ASR 10. It doesn't matter what you use. EPS 16. Who cares? If a Roland SP 202, it doesn't matter. If you a turntable and a record and you're beat juggling and the beat is sick. Like, it's all about what your means are and just using those means to create greatness. That's what, to me, the spirit of hip hop is at its core. Like, just, you grab the boombox and the speakers and plug them in the park and make it work. Like, that's it. Like, figuring it out. And so, I mean, ultimately, that's making music in 2022 for me. All this fancy stuff is cool. None of it's necessary. People damn near don't even mix records in this day and age. You just want something to sound cool. If it sounds cool, that's it.
That's it, man. Yo, so people who are listening, man, like, yo, you don't need all that fancy stuff right now. I mean, yeah, it's nice, but just use what you have. But that being said, like, you are making some pretty cool stuff, like, like the mobile studio and whatnot. So why don't you speak a bit about that initiative, and then we'll wrap up and whatnot.
So the mobile studio really is just about, like I was telling that story about Mazarek, where it was like, there was, that old studio was gone and it got robbed, and there was always problems with space, and now the space has been given up to other programming and they can't afford to lose space. And I was so frustrated because I was like, man, that studio was so valuable to so many people, and like, we can't bring it back. And then similar stories from other community centers and hubs about how they don't have space, or they can't afford to give up that location, and so on and so forth. And I'm like, gosh, there's got to be an answer. And so I'm on tour, touring with these flight cases, and it hit me like, oh man, these flight cases are the truth. Like, I built a studio in this flight case. It's like indestructible. You could use it as a cafeteria table if you want, and then like roll it in some empty room and run programming out of it. It's a world-class facility that's like incredible and does a great job of recording. And to the point we were just making, is better than good enough. Inside of those cases are world-class facilities. Like, those cases are next level. They rival this room we're sitting in right now. Wow. And then, like, yeah, you can lock it all up, put a padlock on it, and chain it to a post in the building, and like, you can't go nowhere with it. So it's sort of like, it solves so many of the issues. And the way we built it is, it's pretty indestructible. And like, I've taken mine on tour to hundreds of cities, and they come back working, and I'm kind of like, man, if these things are roadworthy, they're also community center worthy. And then they're paired with a lot of other programming and social tools and curriculum that are built into the case, and I could go on about what's inside of them endlessly, but ultimately, they're a world-class facility that cut no corners, and I would be more than happy to record, mix, and make music and albums on all day. Like, they're incredible.
It's also about supporting those organizations as well, right? Giving them the supports that they need to ensure that the program can actually be run, that it's sustainable, that their staff are taken care of, because it's not about just giving the kits to the organizations, it's supporting them and equipping them with all the resources they need to excel. So it's the curriculum, funding, other supports, contacts, because we go above the money, right? Clearly.
Indeed. So like, how can, like, I guess, like, community organizations like get access to these mobile studios?
So really, this is the year that like we're gonna actually roll out the manufacturing of them, and then we're sort of gonna have some better understanding of like how many we're gonna be able to produce on a regular basis. The issue I've been running into so far is they're huge, right? When you open them up, and so when I'm building them, I'm like losing an entire room to work on one, and I'm like, oh god, like I need like a warehouse and a space. We've finally just gotten the location, and as I've been, going through my own health journeys for the last little while, that's been slowing us down as well. But really and truly, they're going to be rolling out in the next couple of months, and I'm building out.
Well, that's exciting. We'll
help manufacture them.
There's a lot of stuff rolling out.
Yeah, so much.
No, that's exciting. Well, yo, we'll definitely keep posted with that. But just to close, I mean, what do you feel are some like actionable like items? You know, like we discussed like quite a bit today. Like, what do you guys see as like something that's like really, you know, like urgent right now? You know, actionable items like to move forward and just to really keep this energy going. Really.
A few things. So on the violence front, call your MP, your MPP, your city councillor. It's time to declare violence in the city of Toronto a public health crisis. Cut the bullshit, get it done. That's an actionable item that can be easily done right away. Another thing I would say is reach out to these community organizations that you support in your neighborhood, the frontline workers, because this pandemic has been relentless. And wave after wave, those are the folks that are doing a lot of the frontline work, the supports, providing community organizations, a lot of the resources they need to thrive during a pandemic. And they are facing a lot right now. Over 1.2 million people work in the charitable sector in Canada. We're only about 30 million population. It's a lot. So reach out to your local support them. And summer's coming, so you know what's going to happen here in the city of Toronto. So let's get to work.
Word. Yo, brother Jermaine, man, what you saying, brother? I know we had some technical issues, but I want to make sure that, you know, you're plugged in still.
Oh, I'm plugged in. I can hear you guys.
Okay,
Jonas is spinning. You're spinning, but I can hear the conversation. And, you know, as long as you guys can hear me, I'm good. But, you know, Jonas is right. It's time to reach out to the MPs. But also, I like to say to, if anybody's listening, it's time for our young people of color, our young Black people, our young Indigenous people to start taking place. I need to see more people going into this political field right now. There's not enough, we don't have a lot to choose from, man. This old way of choosing just because, we got to stop doing that. We got to choose because we know. And we know that this person's going to do what they said they're going to do, and we believe in them. But I also think, like Jonas said, the summer's here. It's going to come soon. We have to prepare for that, but also there's so much more we can do. So, like, reach out to your frontline workers, your frontline staff. I think we need to also show some more love. Love has been sitting on the bench for a couple of years lately, and I think that we have to have more understanding and more love, and we need more community. Also, Justice Fund has a lot of cool stuff about to happen in a couple months, so please check it out. Anybody who's attached to an organization here, look us up, join our social, send us an email, let us know about you. You know, my name is Jermyn, Jermyn at justicefund.ca. Let me know about you. Let me know the work you're doing out there. We're all about the grassroots organizations as well. We want to hear the people. We know that the grassroots are doing the work, but they're not getting the funding. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation.
That's what's up, man. Yo, 40, man, we'll leave you with the last words, man. Last words for the people then.
Oh, man, Jermaine just said it perfectly right there. Like, yo, it's about us supporting those grassroots organizations. Like, let us know, how can we help? How can we point money and assets in that direction, right? That's what I was saying. That's my job. I'm not here to pretend I have those answers, right? Like, I'm here to, like, reach out, work with community, find the people that are already doing the work, that have been doing the work, that are on the ground, that need the resources, and help point some of those resources in that direction. And so for me, that's like what this is all about. And like, so I just like to reiterate what Jermaine just said. Like, I couldn't say it better.
Oh man, 40, you dropping bars, man. You might have to jump on the track sometime, man.
No, man, no. I'm good. I told y'all. I'm just following my brother Jermaine. That's all I can do right now.
It's the passion, man. The passion's there, bro. I feel it.
We got a lot of cool stuff coming up. So keep track.
Make sure everybody, man, y'all check out Justice Fund. Keep plugged in. A lot of things are happening. You know, tune in to Stolen from Africa. We're always out here doing the do. And yo, I just want to thank y'all for spending some time, you know, connecting. You know, I know y'all busy, man, doing what you do, but just to sit here and build and share with the people that has been an honor. And this was like an exclusive special edition of You Good Fam, you know, our community check-in, man. And I'm always, you know, happy to check in with our brothers.
Logic.
What's up, bro?
This is special for us. Continue doing what you're doing and giving a platform for the community, especially on, you know, different things out there that people need to know, the knowledge. You're the tree, and you keep feeding us. But also, I want you to say this is special for Justice Fund too. This is the first interview all three of us have actually been on. So this is
real talk.
Have all three of us here, and you're the first one to have all three of us here. So that means a lot to us too, my brother. So keep doing what you're doing.
I love
Yes,
that,
sir.
man. I appreciate it.
All right, incredible.
All right, man. So, yo, on that note, man, we are out, man. That concludes our session, man. And if y'all want to stay tuned with the You Good Fam, movement, that's every Mondays at 11 a.m. right here on SFA_community, man. So we out like that, man. Stay safe. Make sure you keep mental health and self-care a priority. And, yo, enjoy the rest of your evening, yo. And we out, man.
Yo,
Peace.
peace.
Peace.